What's up, everyone? Welcome to the first build video I've done. This one is the Moka Jadina, and I gotta tell you, when I pulled it out of the package and started putting things together so that I knew kind of the setup for doing this video, I was extremely taken with the style and the grace and just the way this bird flows. I was just really surprised. The carbon fiber that he uses is unbelievable. The aluminum supports here, all the arms, everything connects to these two side pieces right here, and just amazing machining. Every screw was already in where they needed to go. So the quality check on this is just top notch. Up there on the screen, that's basically what it looks like once it's put together. So where I'm at right now, I'm using the Acon 35 amp all-in-one or 4-in-1 ESC, using the Helio spring. I am U-F V2, so this is the newest one. And yes, I've heard the rumors. I have no idea what's going on. I haven't even been in this part of the hobby long enough to know what's going on with Helio. Maybe do a YouTube search or something. You probably know more than I do. Nonetheless, I've heard great things about it, and that's what we're going to use on this. And then we've got the Foxier Predator V3 standard / mini. Right now, it's in the standard size. It's got the adapters in there that wrap around the back here. My buddy JJ mailed me a piece that goes across the front, and that's 3D printed, and I believe he said that this needs to be a mini if I use that, which is why I bought this one, because it can go either way. Huge lens on it. That looks really awesome. The problem with that, I don't have that yet because the mail sucks today. We didn't even have bad weather and still didn't get my stuff delivered. So we're going on without it. And these are absolutely gorgeous. I am so just taken by the look of them. The iFlight Zing, I'm going to say, is probably right. And they're 2207, 2450 kV. I mean, just awesome looking. I've braided the wire and used clear heat shrink over it. Before we put it together, I will use double-sided tape, a trick I saw JJ do, and put it across the back so that they stay where I want them to stay. But you can see how it'll look alongside the arm. And I'm going to tell you, anybody who's considering doing this build, it is extremely tight. I, again, did some stuff before I wanted to do the video to make sure that I knew how I was going to be able to make this work. So using the Helio and this Acon, I'm going to say, I had to mount it upside down with the motor leads on the bottom. One, I wanted to make sure that the battery leads were coming out the bottom, which you can see they are, and then there's plenty of clearance in there. But it's the only way I could get this to fit inside your notches right here. So, and then the Helio, so the Helio has its own plug to go to an ESC, and then the ESC has its own plug. So I'm not going to sit here and do a video while I get that figured out, but let's see. here's the schematic for the Helio, and here's the schematic for the ESC. So I need to match all that up to all that. So I'm going to leave it right there. One other thing, since we were talking about what we're using a Mimic X Mini video transmitter, 25, 50, 200 watts, and it's really tiny. It uses the MMCX, I believe is what it's called. Plug on it, whoops, like that, it just plugs in. And then we will be using a far view pagoda antenna on it. So like I said, the first thing I'm gonna do is get this going. Those are probably going to be the hardest thing, is getting those two working together, and we will be back. Okay guys, we're back at it. So had a little problem. The Holy Bro is fine. The Acon ESC, one of the ESCs was bad. So we're going to go a different route on this one. I actually have one of these and have used this in a couple builds. This is a 3 to 6S flight control ESC fly tower. It's made by iFlight, and it's 35 amps continuous, 45 amps burst. The nice thing about this is that for $70, you get the flight controller, 4-in-1 ESC, and the VTX on top. Now, I've already taken this apart. This is maybe one of the things that I'm not super thrilled about with these. I am and I'm not. You've got, this is your base. So this goes on the bottom. And then you have these little 3D TPU spacers and O-rings for isolating it and anti-vibration and all. That's great, but putting this thing together and taking it apart, and when you get it, everything is assembled, so you know how to restack it, but you have to take it all apart, which means unscrewing these really long screws to get all that apart. So, but this thing does everything that pretty much any of the others would do. Let's see. Trying to get my focus. So you've got audio, ground, 5-volt, battery voltage, video in, and transmitter or transmit. But most of the stuff on this is all plug-in, and I know a lot of people don't really like that. And of course, it's a pinned flight stack. I haven't had any issues with it, and it should do just fine. It's got the UFL connector on it, but I've got some adapters because we're going to use a pagoda, far view pagoda. So we will see how this works. And this, again, you know, this is going to change two things on this in a positive way. First off, it's going to be a lighter build. You know, you've got a big 36 by 30 ESC with lots of stuff on it that makes it really heavy. The Helio's not that heavy, but again, it's still a 30 by 30 mounting. It's a big board. So now, with this little thing, here's our opening, and there's tons of room in there. We don't have to worry about height or width or anything else. So it'll be a much cleaner build, lighter, and this being made by iFlight, they're also the ones that make these motors. So, and it's been tested together. One guy, I'm not sure where he was, in another country, he just went out and ripped on one with 6S for a couple hours and was unable to burn up the ESE or anything. So, all right, well, let's see. We have to disassemble this again, like I said. Start at the bottom. I don't think it's such a big deal using the metal screws. Let's see, this thing's sitting upside down right now, which means this plate goes there on the bottom. So we need to go through our 20 by 20 points, and I don't, if you can see that, there's a lot of slop in that screw. These are 3mm holes, and you cannot run 3mm screws on this stack. So I think I'm gonna find a couple washers to put under there. I just feel better about that. So let me find those. I'll at least get the base on the ESE, and then I'll get back to you. Okay guys, I'm back. So I went through and found some washers. They stick up a little bit more than I would prefer, but it's going to be a bottom mount for the battery, so we'll put something up there to hold the battery off of those. We made sure to watch this. We do have enough room in here to get our battery strap between the ESE and the bottom plate, so we're good there. I've gone through, I've pre-tinned all of these. Get this in some good light. All of our motor leads here, and I've put on the battery connector. Here in the background, this is the schematic for the ESE right here. So matching it up, we've got motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, and motor 4. And thankfully I didn't cut the wires any shorter than I did, so we still have plenty of lead on them. This is this is a little difficult, but this is unfortunately the only way you can do it with this setup and on this frame, because the motor leads, we want them to go underneath this sidebar here, so there's no strain on the wires. So this is really the only way to do it. I believe I heard someone else call this surgery in order to get in there and do it that way. So I'm not going to put that on camera. I'll take my time and get that done, and then we'll come back. Once those are on, then we will move on to putting the flight controller itself on. I'll take the VTX off. That'll be the very last thing that we put on there. On this, come on, and watch these pins. These pins aren't very big, so make sure when you start stacking this together, the ESE and the VTX are both pinned, so be very careful when you're pushing those together. But on the VTX here, or the flight controller, we've got one thing that we want, and that's this right here, TX3, or sorry, okay, so this is TX3, this is RX3. We're going to use RX3 for our receiver, being that, again, I'm Fly Sky, so according to the schematic, get that back open, we should be able to use, right here, it says S-Bus and I-Bus. I may try that first. I think that actually worked on another one, so we may do that instead. That'll be a pigtail out the back. That one would be right here on top. This front one, it's actually marked cam for camera, so yeah, maybe we'll just try that first, but we'll see. So I'll get this soldered up and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so the motor leads are all done. This is, I'm telling you, if you don't have a set of these are invaluable for getting in here and moving your wires around and holding them where you need them. I couldn't have done it with just my fingers, so really, really an excellent investment and not very expensive. You can get something like this at Harbor Freight for a couple of bucks. So we've maintained the look I was trying to keep initially with our motor leads. My personal opinion, that looks very, very cool. The contrast of the colors against the black. So now you got to watch, if you use one of these stacks, watch how you take it apart. Especially on a vertical arm, they have odd vibrations. So if you read it on the site, they were saying that make sure to isolate and rubber mount your flight controller to avoid any possible problems. I don't know if it's really necessary or not, because I haven't flown this frame, but nonetheless it comes with them, so let's use them. But on the bottom, you can't even see it right here, but you've got your TPU little stack pieces, and then you've got an O-ring down here, and then another stack piece, and then O-rings again. So make sure when you go to take it apart, look at how it comes apart and watch how you put it back together. So now we got our flight controller. There's our arrow for forward, and it's very awesome because we don't have to move anything. These screws, as I put them up through here, I guess that's one of the good things about your standoffs being TPU material. It's not real tight. It leaves your screws loose, loose enough to be able to use it. And then again, I was talking about watching your stack pins, which you can't see through there because of these plugs. Just watch it as you push it down on there. Make sure everything's square, and actually might be able to see through under there. I can't get enough light in there, but I can see my pins underneath here too, so they're lined up, and we're down. So I don't think there's any soldering we're going to do on the flight controller, being that the VTX is pinned and we're using plugs for everything else. So we could actually just, and I'll show you, I do this a lot, find the picture of whatever you're working on. It's pyrodrone.com that has these. Actually, they're out of stock. I think I bought their last one a few days ago. But you've got a good image of the flight controller, and so you can go to this picture, and now you can see where your O-rings and all that go. So we've got our bottom plate, we've got standoff, O-ring. Now, as I'm putting this back together, I actually want O-rings there because that's the flight controller first. So, and these are some sort of silicone. Heat won't bother them or anything like that. So we'll push those down on there, on all four. And then here's why I say the TPU material is tough, because now getting all that down and seated is a little bit difficult. They don't like to slide, they like to screw down, and that is a little tough. So we got our 4 standoffs and O-rings. Well, there's the 4th one. Alright, we're down. So now's the VTX. Again, pinned, and where your pins go in is right there. So line it up, obviously. And of course, as you build this stack, everything gets a little stiffer. So again, I'm looking under through here, and I can't get enough light in there to share that. But the main thing on getting this done is watching to make sure you keep it level as you push it down on there. If you feel resistance, look, double check it. And then now we have 2 more O-rings, which actually no, we don't. They use standoffs. So on the front, they're just regular TPU standoffs, and then we'll put our nuts on. On the back, we're going to leave the back open for right now. Right here is your UHF connector, and it comes with a little dipole. Well, this being a bigger quad and doing probably acrobatics and stuff, I would prefer to have a pagoda on it. So I have an extension here that has the UHF connector on it. So we're going to use that, but I don't want that on there right yet. And then you have this little cover that will go on over that. So your antenna will go down in here, and this will go down over the top of it, and I'll show you that later when we're actually bolting everything up to help keep that connector on there and keep it from being jerked out at some point in a crash. So okay, I'm going to pause this and tin up some of the connectors up here for what do we got? Well, you know what, I just thought about it. We actually don't need to, because this connector on the front right here, that actually has all the connections that are across the top, and that's a plug. So that will go from there to our camera. So let me check on that and put it in there, and then I'll be right back and explain it. Okay, I'm back like half a second later. The reason being is right here is our connector for Betaflight and all that, our USB connection. You cannot get to it because of the frame. So that's not necessarily a deal breaker on this, because of everything being plugged in the way it is. It's really not that big a deal to drop your 4 bolts out of the bottom and pull the stack down, and we can do it that way. Technically, if everything's going right, then you only have to do it once. I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know if the video kept going or not. So what we can do is drop this bottom plate out. It's 4 bolts, or four screws, not a really big deal. And the way the motor leads are done on both sides, the whole thing can drop down, and then we can get to that USB. If you're a person that is always tinkering with your PIDs and so on, you might not want to use this stack, because as it is, I'm going to have to cut off these, at least the rear bolts, once it's all tightened down, because our top plate is going to touch those, and we can't do that. The front's fine, the back is going to touch. So once it's tightened down, then I'll cut these bolts off. I don't think it's necessary on the front. I don't think they're going to be in the way of anything. So yeah, let me get the camera hooked up and I'll be right back. Okay, once again, we're back. All right, so what I actually did was rebuild, mix and match, a harness to go from the video plug to the camera. Now, this board has audio on it built in, and there's a port there, so I thought, well, I'll go ahead and hook it up because the camera has it too. What I did not do, though, is my experience with the Foxy Airs is that they like voltage or battery voltage. I keep having a hard time getting them to work on just 5 volts. So instead of using the 5 volt out from the board right here, I pulled that pin out and I soldered it to battery voltage on the VTX itself. That should alleviate any problems. So really all of our connections are done except our receiver, which is going to come out the back here, and that will be off of this port. Nope, I'm wrong. This port should have ground, 5 volt, S bus, I bus, and then 3.3. So we have, this is a 4-pin plug with only 3 wires in it. If you are running what is that, DSM, then you would move your 5 volt, pull it out, and move it over to the end. So for this, though, we'll plug that in and make sure it's all the way in. You can feel a snap when these snap in. So we're going to have to cut this because I'm not going to use that. And we will splice it in with our receiver wire. Beyond that, we will take our plug, our extension, and we're going to snap it on here. Sometimes these are, there it goes. All right. The better quality ones are harder to get on. And then on this, this is the part that goes over the top and gives you your standoffs on the top. One side has like a lip sticking out the back. That's the side that you want pointed towards the back of the quad, because that's what's protecting your plug there. See, and it actually bows up over that to keep pressure on it, so it'll stay in there. And by the way, I loosened up the bottom plate, or took the screws out, because as I was mentioning before, the problem with the USB, you can pull those 4 out, pull this down, and then now you can get to it underneath the sidebar here. With everything being done with plugs instead of hardwired or whatever, you don't need much to get that down enough to plug it in. And so it won't cause any problems with the receiver or the SMA extension or the camera, any of it. I'll point out too that these other two plugs on the bottom here, right here, everything's in the way. Right above your, okay, there we see it. Right here and right here. The bigger one gives you PWM, UART1, transmit and receive, and then another 5-volt and ground. You may want to use those for any number of things that you might want to mess with. And then this side is ground, your buzzer minus, your LED, and 5-volt. So if you want to use any of those. This one's pretty big, and with the big motors on it, I think probably the beeper through the motors, through D-Shot, will be just fine. So, really the only thing I've got left is to splice the wire from my receiver, mount this up, and put the top plate on. So and then obviously hooking it up to, I'm going to run butterfly on this. I did it on, did the butterfly on my Moka JJ right here. I've got butterfly on it. I will say I have not had a chance due to weather to be able to fly it. But JJ Roto Geek swears by it, especially on his little headhunter setups on these. This is made by Moka 2, and it's a very small one. Quite a bit shorter there. I want to say this is like a 130 or 146 maybe. It's under 200. So, all right, we will be back in just a minute. All right, guys, I'm back. And ladies. So I did my splice, moved my receiver up to the front. We've got our SMA connector connected in here. Cut down the bolts on the back side, so this fits flush and it doesn't touch anything now. And then I ran my antennas out the top with a couple zip ties. They don't need to be super tight or anything like that. And I'm going to show you a little trick here in a minute. I did bolt the bottom back in with 2 screws because I wanted to check whether, if I have this top part mounted down where it's supposed to be, there we go, would I be able to, do I have extra wires and all that to be able to pull this down, as I was talking about before, to be able to get to your USB? And we do. So really we can just go ahead and bolt the top back on, because we shouldn't have to take the, oh well, no, well, I need it on there anyway. I am gonna have to take it back off, bind my receiver, but we can do that off camera. I know I'm blocking the view. I'm just trying to get this screw in here. I'll just throw 2 screws in there just to hold it in place while I show you this other deal. I'm not going to torque anything. one of the things might have to probably zip tie that right around there from underneath. Don't want to put a lot of super hard bends in these cables here, but we need it to be up for when we land. There's going to be a battery on the bottom, so it doesn't really matter, but try to make it neat. So we got these two antennas here that we want to do something with. I use the zip ties so that they stay held up. I have been playing around with this braided expandable wire covering. And what I found out was it is a perfect size for doing this kind of thing. We can run it down, and then the problem is I should have probably figured my length first, but I know right there I'm well above my, see, I only cut off a little bitty tip of the extension, or the zip tie. So I think that one's too big. Let me grab another one. I believe that size will go. Yeah, that's better. So we'll cut just a little bit, because we need to cover this down here so that this braiding doesn't come undone, and then we'll have to do it on the tip too. So we only need a short little piece. We'll say something about like that. And actually I'm going to expand this piece a little bit, make it a little bit bigger. There is an advantage to, and this heat shrink has the glue inside of it, but there's an advantage to stretching a smaller piece out of heat shrink to fit it over what you want, and that's that it's still going to shrink down to the size that it was meant to shrink down to. So you get a pretty good tight fit once you shrink it down. So we're going to go with that, and then don't need much of anything at the top, just want to hold this from fraying or anything. And when I do that, hopefully you can see there's some of the braiding sticking up out of it. I try to go a little bit above that before I do it, and at the bottom got it down as far as I can get it. So now we're gonna use our fancy miniature blow or hair dryer. You see at the top of that, it shrunk down a lot, and then I usually pinch that off. That glue inside will hold it, and now we've got a good connection on that. It's not super tight, it's not wobbling around either. Something else you can do, if you heat up these zip ties, they will bend and kind of stay where you put them. If you just hold it there and let it cool off, so you get a little bit of a bend. We don't want much bend though, because well, with the props on there, so maybe we don't want that much. So just like that, I'm gonna do the other one, and you know, really honestly, that pretty much, that's the build. Let me throw some props on here. See just how gorgeous this thing is. You know, I'm not a purple guy. Blue's my favorite color, honestly, and that's why I got these motors. Size-wise, they were what was needed for this build. But these are the camo. They call them camo. It looks like a splatter to me. And I love that color blue. But to do an all blue bird, I have a couple. So decided to go with something a little different. So we've got the purple camera and the purple braided wires, and just this will be covered with the cover that JJ's sending me, so we won't even see that anymore. And so I had asked him if he could print in 2 colors, and he said he could, but it was half and half. It's a solid line there. And I said, well, okay. I said, can you do blue and purple? He says, I can. And it's going to be half one way, half the other. And I said, well, that's perfect. This build is going to be called two-faced, because right down the center on that cover that goes on here, one half's purple, one half's blue. So, and I didn't have any of this braiding that had purple in it. I just had the blue and black, so that's fine. Plenty of blue and black in here. But yeah, that's it. I am very happy with it, and hopefully before too long I can at least do a pop test on it and do a video of that. So if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate whatsoever to give me a call, or to leave me a message and ask me. I will certainly do what I can to answer the question. I won't make something up though. If I don't know, I'll tell you I don't know, and I will help you find the right answer. I do not know it all. So there's our build. I'm going to take the camera out of here and hold it up. Just, I don't know, guys, like I said, I'm not big on purples and pinks and all that, but this thing is just awesome looking. So that's it. Hopefully this helped. I know this frame has been built before. There are build videos for this frame on YouTube. We all kind of have our own unique spin that we put on things, and the way we do things, and so, but yeah, just gorgeous. So thank you all for watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you on the next one.